This video is on solving for a specified variable, or what I call rewriting equations and formulas, or littler equations. So sometimes, let's look at example 1 here. Example 1 is distance equals rate times time, which is a really commonly used formula in science and in other areas. So the distance you go is the same as the speed, or your rate, times your time. Sometimes you will want, instead of finding the distance every time, you know the distance and you know how long it took you, but you want to know what your rate is. So one of the things we like to do then is to rearrange my equation or formula so that the r is by itself instead of d is by itself. So you notice I have d on the left-hand side and then r times t. So the way you do that is you go through the same steps that you go through equations. You move everything away from what you're solving for by using opposite operations. So, for instance, I have distance equals rate times time. So what I want, instead of distance equals rate times time, I want rate equals something else. So if I look here, I have rate times time. So if I want to move the time to the over on the left-hand side, since it's r times t, I divide by t. Okay, so now those t's cancel out on this side, and I have rate equals distance divided by time. So now that formula is rearranged for another variable, and we call that solving for a specified variable. So when you're presented this for a question on a test or a quiz or even on the work you're going to do, it'll say solve for the variable. If you notice, I didn't get a number answer. That's not what they're asking for. They're asking for you to rearrange the equation or formula so that one variable is on one side and everything else on the other. In fact, sometimes when you finish a problem, it looks like a longer problem than what you had before. Okay, so the goal is you look at what variable you're solving for and you move everything else away. And just like with the two-step equations, normally we get rid of subtraction first and then multiplication and division, unless that's part of a grouping symbol. Kind of the key is whatever's right next to the variable is what you get rid of last. So for instance, we look at number 2, I'm solving for w. Right, I'm solving for w. 6 is right next to w, so I'm probably going to get rid of that last. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the y over here. So these y's cancel and I have 6w equals, but what's tz plus y? What am I going to do to those? Well, they're not like terms, so I literally just write them next to each other. 2z plus y. There's nothing else to do. Again, we're not solving, we're rearranging, we're moving things around. Now I have this 6 next to w, it's 6 times w, so I'm going to divide by 6. So now those 6's cancel, and I get w equals 2z plus y over 6. That formula has now been rearranged or solved for w. Instead of 2z on one side, now I have w by itself. Didn't solve anything, I kind of just have the opposite operations there. If you look, you'll see that it has operations. So if you look at 6w minus y, my solution has the exact opposite. Instead of minus y, it has a plus y. Instead of times 6, it has divided by 6. Because all I'm doing is opposite operations to move things around. All right, so now again, I'm going to move variables around so that the variable they specify is by itself. Which these examples are 5 and 6, we did 1 and 2. So I don't know where 3 or 4 went, and if I look down on the sheet, I think I have like 10 and 11 or whatever. So I must have cut out some problems. All right, so we're solving this one for B. So if I look, that A right next to B, I know is going to move last because it's right next to it. So I'm going to have to move that 3C. It's a positive 3C, so I'm going to subtract it. It goes away. I'm left with AB equals 2x and then the minus 3c. They're not like terms. I can't combine them. All I did was move it over to the other side. It was plus on the left, It's minus on the right. Now I have A times B, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide by A. Again, I'm solving for B, so B stays there. I don't move it. What I move is the A. So my final answer is 2x minus 3c divided by A. Okay? My computer just told me something. Sorry, guys. So again, my question had A times B plus 3c. My answer has the opposite, minus 3 divided by A. Okay, so take away the 3c, then move that what's right next to the B last. All right, so I want you guys to try number 6 on your own. Try to see what you would get. Pause the video, and then watch me do it. So pause. Okay, so I hope you pause and try this problem on your own. Now I'm going to show you how I would have solved it, and we'll see if we get the same answer. So we're solving for x. I'm moving away from the x. I have k times x minus t. So I know I have k times x, and there'll be some division. I have minus t, so now I'm going to add. Remember, I move away what's right next to the variable last. So here, I'm going to add t, because it's minus t, to this side. So I have 2p plus t. I hate when there's addition and t's in a problem, but anyways, that's my issue. Equals kx. The t's cancel. And now to get rid of, I'm solving for x, so I'm going to divide by the k. And I get x equals 2p plus t over k. Again, my answer isn't any prettier. In fact, that's an uglier problem. I'm rearranging. This is used more in science. I'm rearranging formulas, so what I'm looking for is on one side and everything else is on the other. All right, so now we have some fractions in here. No big deal, because we've dealt with fractions already. We know we're going to have a reciprocal in here somewhere. Again, we're solving for a specified variable. So I'm going to move everything away, whatever's right next to the variable, and get rid of last. So here 2/3 is there, so I'm going to worry about that reciprocal in a second, but I know I need to get rid of that plus b. So I'm going to subtract the b. So I have 2/3 y equals x minus b. Again, I can't combine x and b. They're not like terms. If you remember, we have 2/3 times y. To get rid of 2/3 times, I multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. All right, these cancel. I get y equals, now this is 3/2 times x minus b. It's times the whole thing. So I had to put that in parentheses to remind me that it wasn't just 2/3 times b, it wasn't 2/3 times x, it was 2/3 times both. Okay, so I write my answer like that. Okay, 3/2. Oh, did I say 2/3? I meant 3/2. So I have 3/2. 3/2 times x and b. So x minus b. All right, I want you to try problem 10 on your own. Hit pause. Try number 10 on your own, and then we'll go over together and see if we get the same answer. So I hope you hit pause. Let's go over this question. All right. 3/4 times a minus q. I'm solving for a. I'm going to get rid of this q first by adding it. This is how I write a q, by the way. All right. Now I have 3/4 a equals k plus q. K and q aren't like, can't combine them. To get rid of 3/4, I multiply by the reciprocal, 4/3. The 4/3 cancel, and I get a equals 4/3 times k and the q. K plus q. All right? So again, not making these equations prettier. I just like, hey, I don't want k on one side. I'd rather have the a on one side. Or I don't want x on one side. I want y on one side. Okay, so this is a really important skill. This is really something that you would probably come across outside a math classroom. Okay, a couple more examples. So number 11, we're solving for x. I'm going to get rid of what's right next to the x last. I'm going to get rid of the r last. The next thing is 9, and then the 5. Notice that's the whole thing divided by 5. So this is one of those times where I said, hey, the only time you get rid of division or multiplication first is if it's part of a grouping symbol. Well, here it goes. It's part of a grouping symbol. So the first thing I'm going to do on this problem is multiply by 5 on both sides. And I'm going to write this out. So I'm going to do 5 times rx, that is not an x, plus 9 divided by 5 equals h times 5. Now on this side, the 5's cancel. So I have rx plus 9 equals 5h. Okay, so it was divided by 5 on one side, so it's times 5 on the other. I have a minus 9 on this side, so it's, or plus 9 on that side, so it's minus on this. R times x equals 5h minus 9. And I'm solving for x, so I gotta get rid of r by dividing by it. So I get 5h minus 9 divided by r. So again, on my original question I had plus 9, so my answer has a minus 9. My original question had divide by 5, so my answer has a times 5. So that's one way you can check your work, is, see that it has opposite operations from what you had before. All right, try number 12 on your own. Push pause, try it on your own, and then hit play and see if you got it right. All right, so let's do this one. Again, just like number 11, I'm going to start out by getting rid of that grouping symbol. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. These 2 cancel, so I get 3b minus 4. I don't write c times 2, I'm going to write 2c. Now I'm just going to add the 4 and divide by the 3. 3b equals 2c plus 4. Divide by 3. So b equals, 2c plus 4 divided by 3. So again, we're going to think opposites. We're going to move to the opposite sides. We're going to do the opposite operation. Okay? So again, the point of this is because sometimes you're in an equation, like maybe you're talking about area, instead of talk about area, you want to talk about base or height. So you just rearrange the equation so it's easier to use.